When I first started on YouTube, I mean, I didn't really know how to edit, so it was just like, open up a laptop, start talking to the webcam, upload directly to YouTube.
In the beginning, the way that my video making process worked was that I would just go out and film as much as I possibly could.
And then we had all of this different footage, and we realized we could edit it together into a compelling story, but it would take hours and hours to rewatch the footage.
And then I would sit with all of my footage and write the actual name of the clip on a piece of paper and then write a few things that happened in that clip. It made no sense and it took forever.
The biggest mistake that filmmakers make is turning on a camera before writing their story. We're Colin and Samir, and welcome to this episode of YouTube Masters.
When we start to make a video, the first part of our writing process is to think about our audience, who we're going to be making the video for. And we like to actually pick one person specifically and have them in mind as we're crafting the idea for this video. We call it an audience of one.
So when we first started making videos, we tried to think of the largest possible audience. Like, how are we gonna make a viral video? How are we gonna make something that connects with a lot of people? But a lot of times that would just miss the mark because we were shooting too big. And specifying it down to one audience member, it really helps drive your idea. Think about who that person is, what their likes are, what their dislikes are, where else they hang out on the internet, and try and intimately understand why that person would like the video that you're making.
Once that one person watches the video and decides that he or she wants to share it with someone else, it's our job as filmmakers to make it as easy to share as possible. So what we like to do is imagine the conversation that that one person would have with one of their friends. How would this original audience member of one communicate your video to the next person in the easiest way possible? If it's difficult to explain your video, it's gonna make it more difficult for that video to get shared down the line to a lot of people. And that brings us to a section of our process that we call headlines.
Basically, it's our way of thinking about packaging this idea and making sure that it's easy for people to talk about and easy for people to share.
So now what we want you to imagine is, how can we make it as easy as possible for this person to explain what your video was about?
The actual thing we'll do is think through our idea and then think through the conversation that's gonna be had between audience members when they share the video. So for example, Colin really likes pretzels.
Love pretzels.
So imagine if we came up with a video that was for like avid snackers. Our audience of one is like an avid snacker. Colin.
Big time snacker, yeah.
And then the video is like, I get him a lifetime supply of pretzels.
That would be amazing.
So the way that you could describe that to someone is basically, hey, did you see that video where this guy got his best friend a lifetime supply of pretzels? Clear, concise one-liner. You can imagine that as a title and a thumbnail, and it makes it really easy for that to spread across the internet. And a lot of times the most valuable part of going through this exercise is this is gonna end up being your YouTube title and potentially your thumbnail, because basically you're coming up with a very condensed way to explain this video.
So when you're brainstorming, you literally can write down on paper, did you see that video about? And then just finish that sentence and try and finish it in the most compelling and concise way that you can.
So now that you have a pretty good understanding of who your audience is, what your video idea is, and probably what your title and thumbnail is for your video, that leads us to the next point, which is probably the most important part, is writing the actual story out. And we do this in a 3-act structure.
So act 1 is the setup, 2 is the conflict, and act 3 is your resolution. And the goal is that as time goes on, the stakes rise. This way it keeps your viewers watching all the way until the very end.
You want to make sure that you're actually holding on and there's maybe a question the whole time. Are they going to get there? Are they going to get there? Are they going to get there?
How's he going to get the lifetime supply of pretzels?
Right.
And then how's he going to surprise him at the end?
Right. So basically this is when you decide if your good idea is a good story. Does it fit into this structure? Do stakes rise as time goes on? That's where we decide, are we actually picking up a camera and filming this video? And once you've done all this legwork and you get to this point, you actually have a really good framework for when you get to the edit. You know what your act 1 is, you know what your act 2 is, and you know what your act 3 is. So that's how we've grown from just turning on a webcam and filming ourselves to making videos that we're really proud of and that other people share.
Filmmaking is a lengthy process, and one of the toughest parts of that process is post-production. So to make sure that you have the energy to actually get through the post-production, you want to invest the time in the beginning to make sure that you have that energy after you shoot to actually finish the video and get what you want out of this super long process.
Now, one of the main things to remember is that you are your #1 audience, so make sure that when you write down your story, write down your video plan, you love it, and you're willing to invest the time into crafting that story into a video. So thanks for watching this episode of YouTube Masters. Make sure to subscribe to Musicbed for more episodes, and check us out. Our YouTube channel is just Colin and Samir.